Good afternoon, everyone. I'm so happy that, most of us are here at least to share our progress, and I'm excited to share mine. So, going back to the beginning of the funding period, a big concern or point of improvement for canCode was follow-up workshops. So we started out our funding period with the drop game workshops, as you can see in the top left-hand corner of the screen. And we tested that out to teach the kids more advanced concepts such as variables and the XY grid. They're only in elementary school, so that's some high-level stuff for them. And that went really well. They really enjoyed getting back into the computer lab. And then right above it, you can see that this second semester, we just started piloting and giving card workshops where we teach the kids how to make like a holiday card or a birthday card we did Valentine's Day, we did St. Patrick's Day, we did a bunch of different holiday cards, and for kids that maybe don't celebrate those holidays, they can do a birthday card. And they don't learn as much in those workshops, but they still do get back into the computer lab, back on the computers, and they're getting excited about Scratch and coding again, which is really exciting. And we can also have a little bit of a larger class with those kids since they've already done it. We made our website and database. That was actually two of our own teachers, Alex and Horace. Did a great job with that, and you can go check it out at www.cancode.us. So we use the database to keep track of all of our students that we teach, and also the website has parent resources, student resources, how they can add to their games after the workshop, and also teacher resources, for example, the curriculums that we use and things like that. Our Instagram and Facebook is at canCodeUS. We post on there pictures from our workshops and any announcements we have. We're at 4 sites. So the Youth Activity Center, as you all know, is our partner site. We go there every week, as well as the 2 Florence Fuller centers, Florence Fuller West and Florence Fuller East. And then the Boys and Girls Club was our site for the winter camp. And that's soon going to be 5 sites with the addition of the Achievement Center of Del Rey, where we're going to be doing our summer camp this summer. We bought 12 Chromebooks to use at sites that don't have proper computer labs or spaces where we can use their computers. And 9 teachers started their training. And on the next slide, you'll see that 6 of those teachers have actually finished their full training. So what I'm most proud of is that 140 students that we've taught who would have otherwise not gotten any computer programming introduction in elementary school, we taught them the maze game curriculum, so they learned the fundamental concepts of computer programming and also ended up with a maze game at our different sites over the course of the past year. And if you guys remember at the mid-year review, I was reporting on something like 60 or 70 kids over the past 2.5 years, and now that's just 140 kids in the past year, so you can see how much the funding has made a difference in our outreach. Approximately 100 maze game workshop sessions have been taught. If you remember, the maze game is taught in 3 weeks for the same 4 to 6 kids. So they have an hour a week. And then 6 teachers finish the training, 8 follow-up card curriculum sessions, 3 drop game sessions. And I just put this in to show how much the Florence Fuller Centers really appreciate our work. They actually gave me an award called the Youth Men with Caring Hearts Award for my work at their center. So this is our timeline of events. I'll run through this quickly because I know I'm kind of short on time. Our funding began in May and June. We were doing teacher training of Group 1, teenagers, and we piloted the drop game at the Youth Activity Center. In August, we were doing recruitment and YAC workshops, the Youth Activity Center workshops. That recruitment is for Group 2, which started in October. September was when we ordered the Chromebooks and did website development. That's when we were really getting ready to expand, because in October we added our first new site and started training our Group 2 teachers. That was Florence Fuller West. In November, we were doing Florence Fuller West and the Youth Activity Center workshops once a week each. In December, I was doing recruitment for the winter camp teenagers and starting the 501c3 process. In January was the Boys and Girls Club winter camp, where we taught for 3 days instead of 3 weeks, and we got through 2 workshop groups. And we also trained a Group 3 of teenagers. Then we started later in the month, once the first semester started, we actually started workshops at the Florence Fuller East Center. In February, we were doing 3 workshops per week, and we started piloting the CARD curriculum at the Youth Activity Center. In April, we found our summer campsite, which is the Achievement Center. And in May, that's when I received the Men with Caring Hearts Award, and we are starting the recruitment of Group 4 of teenage teachers. During this time, we're also doing 3 workshops per month, and actually last week was our first week of 4 workshops per week because we're starting to train another group of teachers. And then in June, we're going to be doing a summer camp at the Achievement Center and most likely also at the Florence Fuller Centers because they have kids that are there during the summer that aren't necessarily there during the year. So since the beginning of our funding period, myself, Mr. Scarpa, and Miss Mary Ellen, we all decided that we were going to try and stretch out our funding over the course of more than just the 1 year, going into year 2 and possibly year 3. So I've been very frugal in order to save money where I can. We have 12 Chromebooks. That was our biggest cost at $3,500, and then you can see the other costs are much smaller than that, but our total spending was just under $5,000, and we have about $10,500 to go into year 2. And one thing that I want to just comment on is that even if we would have spent more money, our reach would have been the same. For example, in my initial budget, I thought that the computers were going to be much more expensive, and I actually cut the price in half when we made the decision to go with Chromebooks instead of full-blown laptops, and they work just as well, if not better, because of their increased battery life. And also, I spent a lot of time finding pro bono lawyers and now a pro bono accountant to do our nonprofit work for us, and we saved around, our attorney actually told us that it would have been around $2,000 that we saved. So I'm pretty proud of that. Some challenges faced was training quickly. I mentioned this in the mid-year review, but it's hard for teenagers to get a sense of how to teach in front of a group of kids, especially right in the beginning when they're learning the curriculum themselves and they also want to teach it, and also they might have a little bit of stage fright. The kids can be a little bit critical sometimes if they mess up. But after a few weeks, they get better at it. And then right now, the way that it's working is it takes a couple of months before I feel comfortable letting them go on their own with canCode. Finding sites in teens has actually become easier because our name is more out there. And when I go to a new center and say we teach at all of these great youth centers after school and during the winter and during the summer, they know that we must be good if we're at all of those places. And then another hiccup along the road has just been getting approved for sites with paperwork, because a lot of the time they require us getting approved by the sheriff's office or filling out different paperwork in order to actually work with the kids. So that just sometimes extends the timeline a little bit. So for sustainability, our plan is to always recruit 8th through 10th graders, because then even if it takes us like 3 months to train them, they still have a long way to go before they're going to be done with canCode. And then going into when I graduate, since I'm only in 10th grade, my plan is that when I'm a 12th grader, I'm going to have one of those 8th through 10th graders shadowing me and figuring out what it means to lead a project like canCode with different centers and different things going on. And then they'll be like the head of it, and I'm also going to be dividing up the different areas. For example, a Boca manager, Delray manager, and then depending on where we're at in 2 years from now, there'll be different managers to help distribute that responsibility. So that's my whole presentation. If you have any questions.
How many kids have been exposed to coding at this point in time? You talk about the number of teachers. How many kids have actually taken the class?
So in the past year, it's been 140 students all across at the Youth Activity Center, both Florence Fullers and during the winter camp. And just based on how many teachers we start to add and how many times we're doing it per week, that number starts to go up much faster.
If you looked at year 2, what do you think that number will be?
I don't want to make any promises, but my goal for year 2 would probably be, if we're including the summer camp, also at least 200 students. And it could obviously be more than that. I don't really want to promise anything. It could be 250, 300. But yeah, it's really a big impact in my opinion, yeah.
So, congratulations.
Thank you.
I don't think I ever doubted that you would accomplish the kinds of things that you have. It's very impressive and greatly appreciate the frugality, the negotiation, the strategy, all the thoughtfulness you put in, not only the amount of execution, but how you got the execution. So I thought the question that was asked earlier is a really good question. You know, there have been times in this program this year, I've been on an email with you that were frustrated. You were frustrated, things didn't go quite the way you wanted to,
Mhm.
you weren't getting what you needed. So what have you learned about yourself? You know, you still have quite a few years of developing and evolving this program. But what have you learned about yourself this year? Both good and bad. You know?
I think I've learned how to keep my teachers accountable. That was one of my main things, how to make sure that they're going to the workshops, that they're ready for it, and things like that. I've also learned how to work with adults associated with the Palm Beach Philanthropy Tank, with Mr. Scarpa and Miss Mary Ellen, who are my mentors, and also with the youth center directors. Before the Philanthropy Tank, I was only working with Miss Ellen, who's the director of the Youth Activity Center, and now I'm working with a lot more adults who are really like running the youth centers, and so I've learned how to communicate my project and different things like that. So I think I've become a better speaker and also a better communicator of what I'm actually doing to make them understand how meaningful this is for their site, for example. Yeah.
So I personally coded with Scratch before, and it's more of a block-based coding language.
Mhm.
So I was wondering, are you ever going to get to a point where you feel like your kids are going to be developed enough that you're going to switch to a more text-based language like Java?
Yeah, so that's a really good question. Some of my teachers have expressed that interest also. One thing that you have to remember, though, is that our kids that we're teaching are in 3rd through 5th grade. So one of the main advantages to Scratch is that they don't have to remember typing things in that aren't so intuitive. But definitely with the coming years, when our kids are, for example, we've been teaching 3rd graders who next year are going to be 4th graders and the year after are going to be 5th graders, it's possible that next year or the year after we could add in like level 3 or level 4 that might include Java or Python or higher level programming languages. But yeah.
I was going to ask about collaborating with other organizations. Like there's a group called Palm Beach Tech
Yeah.
up here that are
Mhm.
adults to help support you. Have you done any of that?
So Palm Beach Tech is actually a great example because I actually did meet with them, and we had a productive meeting. I haven't really figured out how we could partner with each other, but we're a little bit in touch. As far as partnering with like other organizations or clubs, in order to find the teenage teachers, I usually go to computer programming teachers or robotics coaches to find like students that would be interested in it, and then they can share it on their Google Classroom or whatever. But as of this time right now, we don't really partner with any coding organizations.
No, one more question. Can you tell me sort of how do you define your target market of the kids that you're trying to teach? So
Mhm.
how do you, of the 140 and a couple hundred this year, how do you find them and how would you categorize that group?
So at the youth center, we like to call them that they're a captive audience. We don't profile the kids at all for the first maze game workshop. We talk to the site director before and we get a list of kids who are there and we just group them up randomly or by who they're friends with. And we like force everyone to go through the first workshop module and they all love it. We've only had a very few amount of kids who want to drop out after the first one, but basically we force them to go through the first one, and if they really don't like it, then they can drop out. That's only happened like 2 or 3 times. So we just try and run through all the kids at the youth center, and they all love it. And then for example, the second one, the drop game or the card curriculum, we ask around the kids and say, do you want to do it again? And there's like a huge line of kids who want to do it again. So for the second and third curriculums, we are going to do more of like who wants to do it. But for the introductory ones, we want to give it to everyone because we think it's a really great opportunity for them.
So you work with the head or the leads of all these youth centers, the 4 sites,
Mhm.
soon to be 5 sites,
Yeah.
to help you introduce what you're doing to their
Exactly.
population, if you will.
Yeah, and it also gets spread by word of mouth by the kids. At the Youth Activity Center, for example, we always like go out onto the playground. It's a much smaller campus compared to the other one, so we go out onto the playground and we like gather the kids up, and they already know kind of what they're gonna do because some other kids have told them about it. And the ones who aren't doing it Some of them have tried to like lie to us that they haven't done it yet so that they can get back into the class and things like that. So it's kind of funny when that happens. But yeah, they really enjoy it.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.